So today we're going to talk Nikon mirrorless. The Z5 was just announced last week, and I'm excited because it's a camera that I think could be a perfect mirrorless camera for a lot of photographers. As you can see, I'm back out camping again, trying to get out as much as we can this summer. My black eye is healed if you saw my last video, feeling much better about that. If you're new to the channel, our channel is about making you a better photographer and talking about gear that's going to help you become a better photographer and lenses and things like that. My name is Bill and Eric is the other half of the channel, and we alternate videos usually. So today I want to talk about the Nikon Z5, which was announced on the 21st, and it looks like a perfect mirrorless camera. Now, I am the person that this camera might be aimed at. I shoot with a Nikon DSLR. I have my D750 right here. It's a big camera. It's not super big like the D800 or the Pro Body, the D6 or D5, but it's a good sized camera. It's heavy, the lenses are big, and everybody's starting to get into mirrorless cameras because the size, the weight, and just the functionality. You have touch screens on the back, they're easy to use, they autofocus better for video, and that's been one of the problems with my Nikon. I shoot all of my videos on a Canon M50 because the Nikon D780 that I have here is just terrible for videos. The autofocus hunts all over the place, and when you're shooting videos, you want something that's reliable. So the Z5 is a 24 megapixel full frame camera with a touch screen on the back. It's the new Z mount that Nikon has, and you can use the FTZ adapter that will let you use your old lenses that you've been using on your DSLR, or if you're just new to photography and you want to get into full frame mirrorless, you can just start buying the new lenses for this camera without an adapter. It's got Nikon's X-Speed 6 processor. My camera has an X-Speed 4, the new Nikon D780, which is kind of right in the same wheelhouse as this camera, and you might be looking at both of them saying, what's the difference? Why would I want one over the other? And I was looking at the specs today, and it's really tough. If you're into video, like cinematic video, and you want slow motion, the D780 is a better camera to go with. It has more video functions, the frame rates are better. If you shoot sports, you want to go with the D780 or a Z6 or a Z7, because the new Z5 only shoots 4.5 frames per second, whereas the D780 can shoot 12 frames per second. Okay, so those are the main issues. Now, but for someone like me who does landscape photography, product photography, low light environment photography, portraits, these type of things, this Z5 looks perfect. One of my main gripes with the Z6 and the Z7 all along have been there's been one memory card slot, and they rectified that with this camera. So now you have two, just like my old camera does. I can just use these cards. I don't have to get the more expensive cards and that have only one slot for it. So that was something that I was really interested in. And the price point is great. The price point for this camera is $1,396 to start. That's without the adapter. The adapter's $250 extra if you wanted to get that. Now, to give you some comparison about that, my D750 rather, that I've had for 5 years, still sells for $14.99 on sale. It's got an older processor, it's bigger, it's heavier, the autofocus system is terrible, it doesn't have a touch screen on the back, so it's an older technology for more money. The D780, which is the replacement for the D750, is a more modern, better camera. It's almost like a mirrorless DSLR hybrid, and that camera has better autofocus when you're using live view. It works like a mirrorless camera, so it's a very attractive camera, but you're at $2,200 to start with that, okay? And it's an F-mount camera, so you can't really use the new lenses that Nikon is coming out with, and that seems to be the future of photography, is the mirrorless, systems. So that's something to think about. And then from there, you go up into the D850 and the D6, which are over $3,000, and those are very expensive professional level cameras. But the Z5 has a lot to like. It's weather sealed, has a magnesium body, so it has a professional feel. It's the exact same size as the Z6 and the Z7. Like I said, it has the two memory card slots. And the one thing that you do lose is, I don't know if you can see here, you have this little screen on top. So it's targeted as an entry-level camera, and I use this screen. This gives you all your information as you're shooting. But with the touch screen on the back, and if it's always on, that information is readily available. I don't have a screen on my M50, and when I shoot photography with it, I don't miss it. So the command dial is on this side over here. Instead of the command dial being stuck in this little corner, they've moved it over to here. So that's the difference with the body size. It's smaller than a DSLR. One of the other things that I really like about it over my D750 is it goes up to a shutter speed of 1/8,000th of a second, where mine stops at 1/4,000th of a second. So I'm looking at this camera, and it's checking off a lot of boxes for me. The autofocus is great. It's got eye detect. It shoots video fine. I'm not a super slow-mo guy and all of that stuff, so I don't really need those things. But it does shoot in full, I believe it's 4K at 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, and then in full 1080 at 60 frames per second. So if video is your thing, maybe this isn't the one you want, but it's not a huge consideration for me. So there's some choices in Nikon's line now. You really have some options when you're deciding on what you want to do. Maybe you move up to the Z6 if that's important to you. Now, the one thing that I don't love about the whole line of Nikon mirrorless cameras is the screen doesn't flip out and you can't see yourself. There are workarounds for this that I'm starting to see online, where you have these like attachments that mount to the hot shoe, and it's like a reflector that kind of flips up the screen so you can see it in front of you. So this is something that I might be interested in, and I would love to sell everything and just go get a Canon R or a Canon R5 and just be in the Canon system, because they've been doing it right now with autofocus and video and the photography. And if you watched any of the videos that Eric's been putting up, he's really been enjoying his Canon R5. And I've kind of just been hanging on to my trusty old Nikon here, waiting to see what the next thing was. So a couple of things I forgot to mention in the video that you're watching. I wanted to jump in and just add them in here. I didn't even mention the in-body stabilization, which is huge. And that's really great if you have either FX lenses that are not stabilized, like I have a 135 f2 that's a telephoto lens that's not stabilized. So with the in-body stabilization, that's really going to help that lens out if I'm shooting at a slower shutter speed. But there's a difference with it. If you buy the new lenses that are made for the Z series of cameras, you have 5-axis stabilization in the camera. For some reason, when you add the adapter and use FX mount lenses with this camera, there's only 3-axis stabilization. Now, I'm not really sure why that is, but it's just something to be aware of. But still, any stabilization is going to be better than not having any in your lens. And the fact that it's built into the camera opens up a world of lenses to you that you don't have to worry about that anymore. It used to be you'd buy a stabilized version of a lens, and it was a lot more money than maybe the non-stabilized version. 70 to 200s are, famous for that. Like, if you look at them, sometimes you'll see one is a couple $100s less than the other, and one might be stabilized and one might not be. Especially the F4 versions of the 70 to 200. So just something to think about. So this is great, and this goes through the whole Z line. The Z5, the 6, and the 7 all have in-body stabilization, which is something that the like my D750 doesn't have. So I just wanted to jump in here with that. Okay, back to the video. I like everything about the Z5. I like the way the price point is. It's targeted entry-level photographers, but this is absolutely a camera that any photographer at any level will probably enjoy using. The processor, the sensor size, everything about it is just kind of, it's that sweet spot. I'm not looking for a 42 megapixel camera that's gonna eat up memory cards and bog down my computer with giant file sizes. I never print bigger than 24 by 36, and my D750 has been perfect for that. I have a big metal hanging in my living room that is razor sharp that I shot with this camera, so I can't see needing more resolution than that. Maybe if you crop a lot, you might have to, you maybe want the bigger sensor if you're going to really dig in and pull out little images out of your main image that you shot. But for the most part, 24 megapixels is actually a really nice size sensor. It's a good sweet spot, and they continue to make cameras in that size, I think, because it's a nice area to, it's enough pixels, the low light performance is good. That's another thing now. So I don't know, this should be better in low light than my D750. The Z6 and the Z7 have a reputation as really good low light performers. So I'm hoping that this camera will be the same, but I'm not sure yet. So I think I'm actually going to purchase this camera body and give it a test run and see what I think about it. And I'll make some videos on that and talk to you guys and let you know how I feel about it. But I think this is the camera that Nikon is like moving in the right direction for someone like me. We really had some reservations with the Z6, and they brought the price point down here, and they added some features that I was looking for. So this could be the camera that that I want to shoot with. So if you're thinking about moving into mirrorless, or you're not really sure, this might be a camera that would, get you going in the right direction. And if you don't have lenses already, you can start buying into the Nikon mirrorless lens system, and then as your photography grows, you may want to move up into one of the better mirrorless bodies, maybe the Z6, the Z7 later on down the road, or if you have a need for video, that maybe this camera will have some limitations where you're not getting the slow-mo that you want, or whatever it may be. This could be a way to get started, get some lenses, and then once you have your lens collection, then you can just start flipping bodies, and lenses will last a long time. I've had a bag of lenses now. Many of the lenses I've owned for 6, 7, 8 years, and there's nothing wrong with them. So, and the fact that I can adapt those to this is another feature that I really like. So if you have any questions about this, or maybe just different cameras in general and why you may want one over the other, and what photography you're going to be shooting, or maybe you don't even know yet, leave comments or questions. We're happy to answer them. This is a great step in the right direction, I think. Nikon's starting to head where I would like them to go. If they could just figure out how to get a flip out screen on it, I would be sold today. But I may have to figure out how to use it. Like, I love just being able to look here, I see my frame, everything's perfect, I have all my settings on the camera, super simple, I don't know, they have this design, this pop out thing, it goes out, up and down, which is nice for shooting, but it doesn't help me when I'm sitting here doing these kind of things. I mean, I can always just continue using my M50, but I would love to have one camera system, one bag. Now, I'm traveling right now, and I have so much camera gear with me, it's ridiculous. I'm doing some shooting for some stuff that I have to do with my camera. I knew I wanted to shoot a video here, so I have my mirrorless stuff with me. It's a lot of stuff to drag around. I'd love to have one camera system and just be done with it all. I'll drop a couple of videos here to give you some information about mirrorless and photography, and then I'll see you in the next video.